The idea of effective communication is to transfer the idea in your head in a telling, interesting, and effective manner into the heads of your listeners. Do you have the ability to do that? Yes, you most certainly do. Our own great Emerson said, "If you have something to say, you'll be given the power to say it." That's worth memorizing. And that's the key. If you have something to say, that's the key. You'll be given the power to say it. You have a subject, a picture in your mind, and you want to transfer it step by step as a building is moved from your mind to the minds of others. When the process is complete, you want your listeners to have the same picture you have. Now, if you can do that with real interest, humor, in a relaxed and friendly manner, you're a big success. And yes, you can do it. The subject of this message is to learn to speak with strength and effectiveness. Things that are strong, that are fashioned to last, built of quality, are usually typified by their simplicity. They are generally unadorned with useless spare gear and trappings that don't contribute to the main theme. The same is true in delivering an effective talk. Trim your speech of all irrelevancies, all discontinuities, all cliches. For example, never say each and every one. Simply say each one. It's stronger, more effective, leaner. Never, please, as long as you live, ever say, "and last but not least," or "without further ado." Those are cliches, tired, worn-out, beat-up cliches. They clutter, they're useless detritus. Clean your talk so that it stands lean and muscular with no excess baggage. When I have an important speech to make, I write it out first, every word and phrase, then I edit ruthlessly to trim away every ounce of superfluous fat. Then, read the speech aloud. If there are awkward locutions, and there are many words that work fine in print that are difficult to work with in a speech, words such as vouchsafe, for example, looks great in print, it's almost impossible to say. Look for pompous, affected speech and cut it out or reword it in a less formal, friendlier form. Take your subject and your speech seriously, just as you do your work, but don't take yourself seriously. Read the talk over a couple of times and time it as you do. If it's too long, cut. There's always something that can be cut out. I've been writing 5-minute radio programs for 18 years. I've written them on every subject under the sun, and I've never found one that couldn't be handled in 5 minutes in what I consider to be an interesting and informative way. It's true that you can't go into great detail. It's also true that you could easily talk for an hour on any subject. But it's also true that it can be handled in an interesting and effective way in 5 minutes. Such a speech is an hors d'oeuvre, not an 8-course meal. And with a little thought, imagination, and care, it can be delightful and delicious. If you can't think of anything to talk about, arbitrarily pick anything you see and write a 5-minute talk about it. A book, a table, a chair, the carpet, the town you live in, the state, your job, your child or children, your hobby, your main interest, your favorite food, music, architecture, automobile, color, part of the country or the world, why you like to walk in the rain or take long walks on the beach or in the country. Take any word that represents a concept such as love, honesty, justice, law, truth, honor, integrity, brotherhood. You could write a large book, 10 books, on any one of them. You can certainly write an interesting 5-minute talk about any one of them. Each of them paints a picture in your mind and imagination. Now transfer that picture into the minds of others. If you own a set of encyclopedia, you have only to open any volume at random, and you have the topic for a most interesting 5-minute speech and the facts you need for it. Every word in your dictionary can be the subject of a most interesting speech, as can the alphabet. Do you realize that all 600,000 words of the English language, the richest, the most widely spoken, the most flexible and beautiful language on earth, are formed of the 26 letters of the alphabet? Every word in all the plays and sonnets of Shakespeare is formed of that small, incredibly productive alphabet. Amazing? Interesting? Sure, it's interesting. Nervousness comes from being unsure of our subject and our ability to effectively deliver it. By writing the speech out first, we can be sure of it. We can find real interest and excitement in it, and find the desire to communicate that information and excitement to our listeners. After reading your speech over a few times, a few notes on a card will provide all the keys you need to keep on course and end on time. Pausing and hesitation are normal in everyday conversation. Speakers shouldn't be nervous about having to stop and think for a moment or reach for a particular word. It makes the talk sound more spontaneous, more natural. And you should speak just as you would to one person, with no affectations, no stentoriousness, no phony gestures. It should come naturally, unaffectedly. And look at the people in your audience. Look at those in the back, at the sides, and those in the front and the middle. And as you look at them, try to be conscious of transmitting what you're saying to them, transmitting the feeling, the mood, along with the words. You know, Toastmasters has helped thousands of people get over their nervousness and fear of speaking. It's a matter of practice. Every speaker of quality, I believe, suffers from nervousness before a speech. The degree of it depending upon the makeup of the audience he's to face. But like most, I feel that's a good thing. It puts us on our mettle. We get up for the speech, as they say, and we work hard at doing a good job. I find it helps me a great deal if I can develop a kind of love for the audience before I begin to talk. Now, by love, I mean a feeling of agape, which originally meant a feeling of love between Christians, but which can certainly include all people regardless of their religious leanings. It's a feeling of brotherhood. After all, we all belong to the same club, the same species. Our humanity is our membership card, and we can develop a feeling of liking, of being glad we're there at that moment. And I believe that feeling is transmitted to the audience. Audiences, I think, like most people most of the time, seem to dwell in a kind of neutral. They're not particularly negative, nor are they particularly positive. They're waiting to respond to whatever stimulus we provide. If it's good, if it's warm and positive and contains a feeling of love or liking or brotherhood, they seem to sense it and respond in a positive way. By liking your audience before you begin, you set the stage, which is so important, for what you have to sell. We might call it the package in which you and your words are to appear. It's an important part of marketing, as we all know. Without it, with a cold or negative audience to overcome, it's much tougher. There's a book out which has a title that goes, if I remember correctly, The First 4 Minutes. I may be wrong on the actual words, but that's the idea of the book at any rate. The book talks about the importance of that first impression. We can overcome a poor or average first impression with a good speech and wind up a big success, but it's a lot better to begin a winner. So, like your audience, even if it's hard for you at first. Liking your audience will go a long way toward dispelling nervousness and stage fright. We enjoy talking to people we like. It's fun, and we can have a good time doing it. Most people are nice people. They want the same things you and I want. They want to enjoy your speech. They're looking forward to hearing you. Actually, you've got everything going for you, and there's no reason in the world to be fearful or consider the people in your audience hostile toward you. The fact that they're not all wearing big friendly smiles isn't important. They want you to succeed. They want to enjoy your speech. You can enjoy it with them if you begin with the right attitude, as you probably know. That word attitude, has been called the most important word in the language. It's magic. It can work wonders and overcome tremendous odds, and people tend to respond favorably toward a good attitude. It's believed and often said that if you get to know anyone really well, you'll like him. We need to understand the importance of losing ourselves in our subjects. We don't lose control. We know where we are and what we're doing. Our minds reach for the proper words and phrases. The pauses come in the right places. We've got good eye contact with our audience. You might say we're conscious of putting on a performance, but at the same time, we're so interested in what we're talking about, and we know our subject so thoroughly, we can immerse ourselves in it. Before you make a speech, think about the group you're going to speak to. Chances are it includes some very successful people. If you're talking to a sales organization, you may be talking to some people who do a lot better than you do and who know more about the subject you've chosen. You can still make a valuable contribution and an excellent and much appreciated speech, but stay humble. Every human being has a genetic strong point. You may be great at what you do, and you should be. But remember that other people are great in their ways too, and keep a healthy respect for the people you're addressing. I often say something such as, I'm sure there are many people in this audience more qualified to speak on this subject than I, but perhaps we'd all do better with a little reminding from time to time. Will Rogers said that none of us is smart enough to remember all he knows. Such a statement causes people to drop their guard and relax. They think, okay, this guy isn't challenging me, I'll see what he's got to offer. Maybe I'll even pick up an idea or two. We need to remember that success in one field doesn't qualify us as experts or grant us omniscience in other fields. Quite often when I've been asked to speak for a group, the program chairman has suggested that I talk on a particular subject. I'm quick to tell him that I have the subject I talk about and that that's my main interest, and that I don't tailor-make speeches for special groups. If he wants me, he gets my subject. It's simply a matter of sticking with what you know, what you're really qualified to talk about. Many times I've received letters and calls from people telling me they want to become speakers. I always ask them, what do you want to talk about? It quite often takes them back. They just want to be speakers. They don't have a subject in which they're deeply involved and interested. And I don't think we need more speakers. We need more informed and dedicated people. In each case, the audience must be taken into consideration. One of the worst things we can ever do is to talk down to our audience. We should stretch them if possible, but never make the mistake of assuming they aren't as smart as we are. Make them stretch up to your subject if necessary, but don't ever be patronizing. It offends them deeply, and they quickly recognize that you've underestimated them. They're a lot smarter than you think. We would all rather be overestimated than underestimated. So, never, ever, under any possible circumstances, sell your audience short. Never underestimate their brains nor their ability to grasp what you're talking about.
I used to know a man, he was one of the principals of a large and very successful advertising agency, who had a hard and fast rule against cliches. A cliché, as you know, is a trite phrase which has lost its meaning through constant use, but which often becomes so much a habit with us we use it automatically without thinking about it. I used one just for fun in my opening sentence. Did you notice it? I said, who had a hard and fast rule against cliches. Now, what is a hard and fast rule? It's much better to say he had a rule against cliches. The words hard and fast are unnecessary. In advertising, they take up valuable space and increase the cost without adding a thing to the message. Some time back, we went through a 2-page letter just for fun, and by cutting only the superfluous words, reduced it to a 1-page letter consisting of just 3 paragraphs. Not only was about 70% of the letter completely unnecessary, but the new edition was fast, lean, and muscular. The original letter was fat, unwieldy, and full of cliches, phrases that you put into letters without even realizing you're doing it. We have a tendency to speak the same way. Have you ever noticed how often you hear people say, I mean? If you simply say what you mean, you don't have to tell anyone what you're doing. Another one is stuff like that, or you know what I mean, or in other words, or like I said. And one time I had a cab driver in Philadelphia who, after every sentence, would look around and ask, am I right or wrong? Well, there's nothing wrong about this particularly, but it does add a lot of unnecessary weight and excess baggage to something that can be simple, direct, clean, and powerful. The experts go on to say that fully 96% of the average person's conversation is negative in nature. I think you'll agree that our conversation most certainly reflects our thoughts, and if this is so, 96% of our thinking must be negative. And since it's our thinking that determines what happens to us, we literally become what we think about most of the time, the odds are about 96-4 then that we're negative people. That is, we tend to look on the gloomy side of things, to expect the worst rather than the best, and to wear a grim, unhappy expression about 96% of the time. You can't very well look happy, smiling, and cheerful when you're discussing a negative subject, how bad you feel, or how rotten the weather is, or verbally ripping the viscera out of some poor clown you don't like, or complaining about the boss, or the company, or the working conditions, or the job, or your in-laws, or whatever. Now, this is a very unfortunate situation for the great majority of people, and it points up the importance of your having a positive and inspiring destination toward which you're directing your life. We need to keep our eyes fixed upon the compass and our destination firmly and constantly in mind. Otherwise, we're going to become so immersed in the negative, the microscopic amount of positive and healthy influence in our lives won't be enough to save us. And the experts go on to say that we'd be smart to de-emphasize the negative and bring more things and thoughts of a positive nature into our minds and actions. We can do this by censoring our thoughts and our speech before they have a chance to be fully thought about or uttered. Dwelling on the negative can only have a negative influence upon our lives. Conversely, the more positive we can think, talk, and act, the brighter, the happier, the more successful our lives will become. You might someday try keeping score in a little notebook under the headings P and N. Keep a tally during the day on positive and negative factors and see which is winning. Do you know there are 3 kinds of book buyers? The first has a handsome collection of volumes on his shelves, unread, untouched. He looks upon them as part of the furniture in his home and usually selects them for bindings that match the rest of the decor. The second has an interesting assortment of books which reveal his own varied interests. A few of them read through, most of them dipped into, but all of them clean and shiny as the day they were bought. He has not yet come to grips with them or made them an integral part of his mind. The third has a few books, or many, but most of them are dog-eared and dilapidated, shaken and loosened by continual use, marked and scribbled in from front to back. This man has come into full ownership of his books. The kind of wear and tear they show indicates how much of their content has rubbed off on his mind. Having something readable on your bookshelf does you no more good than having something edible in your icebox. You've not made the books your own until you've made full use of them by reading and understanding them and so getting them into your mind. After you have assimilated books in this way, they can always be returned to the bookshelf, for unlike food, they are not consumed by use. And if they're great books, they always remain to be used again and again for further nourishment. I think another important point to insert here is that the idea of reading a book isn't to finish it and lay it aside. Maybe you're like I am and hate to see a good book come to an end. Well, that's a good reason for not getting in too big a hurry, and it's also a good reason for reading the book again at some future date. I believe it's impossible to calculate the value of a good library. Coming into the room that contains your books is like coming into a room full of old, wise friends. It gives you a warm, comfortable feeling, a feeling of belonging. The weather can be miserable outside and you can be all alone in the house, but in 10 or 15 minutes you can find the book you feel like reading or studying, and before you know it, you're swept up in a world of interest and charm and excitement. The most important part of you, your mind, is being fed and nourished and broadened. Its vacant cells are being filled with new knowledge, new memories, and are activating new cells for new information. Anyway, you might ask yourself which of the 3 types of book buyers you are. And incidentally, books should be bought. 1, the type who buys the books to look at on the shelves. 2, the type who occasionally peeks into a few of them. Or 3, the type who devours his books as he devours his food for nourishment and sustenance and good health. 6 times 1 equals 6. 1 hour a day, 6 days a week, every week. 1 hour that every human being on earth can find every day out of the supply of 24 each of us is given. If you say you want to write or do anything, then hang it, do it. Even if it's only 1 hour a day, 6 days a week. Before you know it, it'll have been done. But don't ever pull those twin phony alibis, I don't have enough time, or I'm too tired, out of the hat. They're absurd. Each one of us has exactly the same amount of time that was granted to Michelangelo, Pasteur, Shakespeare, or Ty Cobb, Henry Ford, Marshall Field, and Dr. Jonas Salk. If you don't want to use it, it's really best that you just keep silent.